Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up? How's everybody doing? So, I want to set the stage. How's everybody doing? It's hump, or is it hum day? It's hump or hum day. One of the two. We're doing something a little different today. And do y'all like the new? Oh, hold it. That guy. Do you like my new guy over there that I made? I think he's pretty cool looking. So, hey, Sparkle on Copycat. Tamara, Royal Linus, who else is up in the house? It is Wednesday. Remaining remnant, you're here and you have blessed us with your presence. Thank you. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. George, what's going on? Copycats up in here saying everybody to hit the thumb. That would really be much appreciated. Much appreciated. So first I want to set the stage. It is hump day. No, it may be hum day, right? So I want you to think about this, bozo George. It, hey, Caitlin. Hey, RCX. So it may be hum day or hump day. You decide. Hey, Lenora. Hello, everybody. If I miss you or if you're a lurker, come on in. We will not bite. This is our Kickback Wednesday. I will be bringing some news tonight, but after news, we have something fun we're going to do. So I hope you're able to be there. We need a thumb up. We need a Dragonfly said do a thumb up. Poof. Poof. Hey Lisa, I was talking about you this morning. Mm, nothing like a and W root beer, that's for sure. Do y'all know how to do the thumbs up or do we need to have a demo? Okay, hold on. Demo. Hold on. Oh, oops, wrong one. Yeah. Oops. Okay, there we go. That's for you, George. Or maybe oh, that's for you, George. Yes, of course they were, Lisa. I was talking about the Mobile Flea Market. That's what I was talking about. Fisherman, what's going on? So, okay, this is what I want to talk about today. Something a little different because I know on Hump Day Wednesday I just kind of rattle and talk. But today in history, did y'all know what happened today in history? Anybody have any guess? Anybody have any idea? Okay, George, I'll watch it. Don't be calling me a twerp. That's not very nice. That's not nice of you at all, George. But okay, so this is what I want to talk about. Today in history, over a long freaking time ago, in the summer of 1946, GIs began to return from World War II. Battlefronts in Europe and Japan, everybody was ready to resume life in their sleepy towns around the country, right? They just wanted to get back to some normalcy after so many people lost their lives. And people just really just wanted to do the dang thing. And there was a little Tennessee town. They were what they found instead was well, it just infuriated them to the core. A power hungry Democrat and his associates had since they had basically taken over the local government and law enforcement. They imposed like this chokehold on McMinn County town through fines, excessive laws, arrest of anyone who opposed them, right? While the soldiers were away fighting power hungry foreign enemies in 1936, Paul Cantrell, who was a Democrat from a wealthy and prominent family, used that influence to win the position of sheriff. And though many Athens citizens strongly suspected Cantrell hadn't been elected through entirely legal means. Does this sound familiar? They appeared to be no way to challenge his results. There was no way to fight him. As the years passed, Cantrell and his deputies took full advantage of Tennessee law, which gave them and these unscrupulous men a fee for each person they arrested, jailed, and released. According to some accounts, the lawmen even pulled over buses, literally a bus full of people, right, that happened to pass through town. And they arrested every single person on board for being drunk. Whether or not they actually were, it was basically in order to profit from these people's misfortune of driving through Athens, Tennessee. But such arrests and fines required paperwork, which meant traceable money, and to some degree hindered some men's ability to rake in cash. And it is a very interesting story. And I want to show you a tidbit from history. And I want us to think about why would I be bringing this up? What does it apply to? Are we seeing a repeat in history from 77 years ago? Are we seeing something on a grander scale now in 2023? Watch this little tidbit with me. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's a great piece of history. And then I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about it. These folks took up arms. And what happened that day?
It just came together here.
Decades of black and white pictures tell the story. Neighbors armed with rifles and raw emotions running high in the peak of the summertime heat.
It was election day. It was very hot that day, and we know how East Tennessee can be in August. There was no air conditioning back then.
The following 12 hours became known as the Battle of Athens. It played out in city streets, newspaper headlines, and eventually a TV movie. Fresh off the end of World War II, hundreds of McMinn County GIs entered into a new battle, this time at home. They wanted to rid their hometown of a system many considered broken from years of corruption. It was a good old boy political machine. Deputies received money for every arrest. Leaders appointed each other to new offices, and racism played out at the polls. The young men formed their own political party with candidates, and on election day, tides began to change.
As the election started to go against the deputies and the sheriff, there was a shooting at a polling place. A voter was shot. The sheriff decided he was losing control of the election and decided to take the ballots. The jail kind of sat back in this area here with the front porch in the area about where this truck is sitting. And then across the street is the hillside where all those GIs were, all the way up into Knight Park. And as they were firing from the hillside right across our heads to take out that transformer, you can see the bullet holes right to the left and above that window.
After emotions cooled, both sides laid down their weapons. Newly elected politicians took office, and a first of its kind government formed. More checks and balances, salary restrictions. Voters elected commissioners and county executives.
Over the next few decades, that grew and grew until there was a constitutional change, and that was the form of government that spread throughout the state, and is more or less the form of government that is spread throughout the South.
As an elected official serving under that system, Sheriff Guy says politicians should see that event as a reminder of the power of the people.
These are people that went to church together, that went to school together. They just differed on political views. I think it reflected well on our community's resiliency, how this community came together after that was over with.
But the history of that day remains along the city streets of Athens and in the form of government we all share.
That change was very significant. It made things much more effective.
Very, very interesting. And I don't know, Mark, if I totally agree with you about that. I mean, I think some films they just did not do in color, and they haven't taken the time, feeling that it's insignificant to today's history, to go back in and make them color, right? Now, the movie about Athens, Tennessee is in full color, but I think it's really interesting. Yeah, it was really lagging. I had to take my I hope that y'all were able to see most of it. It was only 2.5 minutes. But I think that the important factor here, right, is the things that we're seeing. What happened with number 45? What's happening with number 45 now? I'm not saying, right, that number 45 or number 44 or 46 or 49 is going to be the answer to the problems in the United States. But this corruption goes back decades and decades and decades. If we think about the real just of that little short take, it's only about 3 minutes long. It's very interesting that 77 years ago today, that happened at the end of WW2. And it just shows how much like our history has been altered, has been played out, has been put upon the people, um, so that we basically go with the flow of what's happening in 2023. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Um, I agree with you, Royal Linus. I think if a black and white film is black and white, leave it black and white. With the things that are happening, honestly, right now with AI, it's unbelievable, how stupid that I can't think of any other word, how stupid mankind is going to become, because this new AI situation is literally, I said, prepper. And the guy next to me, the new avatar, he's cool looking, but there wasn't nothing to creating him. I could probably go to an AI capability now and say, make me a video about how to prep starting fires, and it would do the same thing. I mean, and I think that we are headed in this path of more laziness and more destruction. But I think that it's very interesting to when you think about it, is that when we think back 77 years and 77 years ago and this happened, and now look at where we're at. It was I'm going to read a little bit out of the story because it's really interesting. If you'd like to read it for yourself, you can go to the freethoughtproject.com, which is a really fabulous website, right? But the interesting thing is that during this whole thing is they really didn't have a lot of opposition because most of the men were gone fighting. But this is what came up because Cantrell and his cronies faced only limited opposition. They also thwarted and carried out the elections by transporting ballot boxes from every precinct to McMinn County Jail to be counted behind closed doors. Neutral election observers became the enemy and were frequently forcibly ejected from polling sites if they were not arrested. And 10% of the town's population was fighting overseas. And so it left a lot of women, a lot of children there, and young men, right, that weren't actively involved. The thing is that Cantrell eventually moved on to become a state senator, leaving Pat Mansfield to become his successor as sheriff, exactly as they had planned out from the beginning. By the time the soldiers were arriving home, Cantrell intended to resume his position as McMinn County Sheriff. By 1946, most of the GIs had returned home to find the liberties and freedoms they assumed they fought for were squashed by the succession of zealous sheriffs and their deputies who made a racket of roughing up and arresting the former soldiers. So these guys went out and fought during WW2. They came home, and Cottrell and his posse didn't like it, so they began arresting them. Rather than accepting this, the GIs decided to remove uh, the Cleocrats from power by running for office on a nonpartisan platform. In response, Cantrell publicly accused the former soldiers of plotting to stuff ballot boxes in their favor, to which the GIs offered a $1,000 reward for verifiable proof that no one ever collected. Now, see, he realized that the voting system could be altered. And he said, your vote will be counted as cast no matter what. The military men employed car mounted loudspeakers to roll through Athens, repeating over and over this popular campaign slogan, your vote will be counted as cast. And on election day, August 1st, 1946, voters, they went to the polls in record numbers. Mansfield had had enough. And by hiring law enforcement from other cities and even other states, now some 300 strong, the lawmen guarded the voting precincts, but rather looking out for fraud. The men roughed up veterans, serving as poll watchers and anyone else they considered troublemakers. The interesting thing is when everything erupted, they took to the streets and they began fighting. There was gunshots, there was crowds everywhere in the streets, and Mansfield reported by shutting down the precinct and positioning armed guards to prevent access. It's very interesting to me when you look back and think about this and think about everything that we have been through with the voting is where is this really going, right? And I don't know, Mark, maybe it was intentionally put in black and white, but I think even during those times, and I will disagree with you a little bit, but that's okay, right? We can agree to disagree. I think that many film industries put out stuff in black and white because it was cheaper. It was, color TV was not a big thing. Most people watch TV in black and white. Actually, in the 1900s to 1940s, as soon as the radio became very popular, people listened to radio. They didn't even watch people on a screen, they listened to radio. But I think that it's very interesting if we kind of pry through the lines of that story of where we're at in 2023, how people are feeling that does their vote matter? Does it count? And will we escalate like to another situation like what happened in Athens, Tennessee 77 years ago? It's just something to think about. And I always look at things kind of in the off the wall prepper way, right? I never am just going with the flow of mainstream media or mainstream YouTube. I think about things in a totally different way. I think that each and every one of us, and has to look at things and say, what is it going to take, and how long is it going to take? Like before people really realize there's been. I will agree with you and Mark in this way. There's been a lot of altered history. There's been a lot of things hidden from people over the years, and that's why there's so many conspiracies. Dragonflies was just sitting here listening to a video that was done in depth about JFK and about his autopsy. And there's so many things out there. We are in an information war. But this is the other thing. How do you decipher? You can say, well, I seen it on YouTube, I seen it on Google, I seen it on DuckDuckGo, so it's true. Is it? That's my question. Just because I say something's true or copycat does or Royal Linus, does it make it fact? Or does it make it that we have been spoon fed or we did a little research and we've come to the point that that's the truth for us, right? I believe that there's a lot of misconceptions in 2023. I believe that a lot of people are being spoon fed fear because fear sells. But what about individualism? What about thinking on your own? What about picking up a book, a historical book that was written, and reading that? You know, where do we really differentiate between this is AI producing this is true history, and this is just BS? Like where is the differentiation between those? It's like so many prepping channels. When I really got involved on YouTube with prepping channels, I really thought I was just going to be talking about prepping, survival skills. And maybe I went into the wrong thing because I realized that so many times, like, we get carried away in just conspiracies without backed factual things. And I'm not saying that every conspiracy is true or false. I'm saying that we all have to come to our conclusions. And I agree with you because I will tell you this, Royal Linus, and I totally agree with that. And I'll tell you why. If you're in the Ozarks and you search for something, you're going to see the same top 2 pages, 3 pages on Google come up. If you go to California and you type in this exact same thing, you are going to be spoon fed a totally different top 2 or 3 pages. See, it goes with what part of the country you're in, what type of setting you're in, and they know. And that's why I have to laugh when people come to the chat and they say, "Well, I'm totally off grid and I'm on the DL and I'm gray man and I'm this and I'm that." No, you're not. If you have a cell phone, if you have any social media account, trust and believe they already know who we are. They, you know, they know your address, probably how many kids you have, where you live, what kind of jobs you done, the whole thing, right? Yeah, and that's so true, so true, like right on point. And they do that uh, to well, why do so many people that have money commit a crime and get to walk, but yet if you're middle class or poor, you commit the same crime and you go to prison forever. You know, one Harvest Mary Moon just made a great point. It's vocabulary. The more extensive the vocabulary, the more twisted they can make it sound. It's just like when you go to the voting polls. Like, think about this: you'll be voting yes on something that's really voting no, or you're voting no on something that means yes. Why do they use the vocabulary they do? Is to confuse people so that you're thinking that you're voting yes when you're really voting no. It is a slippery, slimy mess of cesspool of government, and it has been for decades and decades, which I just showed. And I searched lots of things about Athens, Tennessee. I just thought it was interesting, being August 2nd, 2023, that it happened 77 years ago. And one, there's some significance to the number seven. Two, that it happened so long ago, and now it's like we're repeating history on a bigger and different level. Um, when you think about that alone, think back to World War II, what our grandparents and great grandparents fought for, and what we're seeing now is very interesting. Yeah, there's a big. I'll have to find the article, Mark. There's a big article about that. There's like a whole bunch of information about that, and I have read it, which I thought was very interesting and very significant in 2023. Because see, these copycats did slime me for sure. Yes, yes, so true, Sparkle on, so true. And they do that on purpose, changing the verbiage. They do that on purpose to confuse the masses. Um, Today, is Hump Day Wednesday. We usually kind of talk about prepping and my ideas and my thoughts. And this is just one of those things. It's a little different, but I've been thinking about so many people say, I'm not going to vote. I don't believe in voting. And I understand. And I truly understand. Yeah, that's about the truth, George. I like that. It's the golden rule. Those who have the gold make the rules. And that's about the truth, isn't it? That's a good one, George. That's really good. But I think that as we go through life and we see all these things, the biggest thing as a prepper that I feel, and if you're new to prepping, slow down, slow your row, gather your senses, be sensible, and remember, you can prep on the cheap. You don't have to go buy every gadget and gizmo. There is some good ones out there, but think about what you're purchasing. And the most important thing when it really comes to preps is to be spiritually centered first and foremost. Second is plenty of food, plenty of water, a way to keep warm or a way to cool off. And, survival instincts are built into us. And I think that so many times people, there's the birthday girl. I'm not singing happy birthday every time you come in alive, Lady Casket today. Okay. A happy, happy, happy birthday, baby. All right, that's it. That's all you're getting out of me as a one-liner. I sang for you this morning. Dang it, dang. Yeah, but I think that being in the prepping lifestyle, survival, being a survivor, give ourselves enough back, and the person you love or the animal you love beside you, or or something of that sort, you would be shocked that we can make it. Our ancestors made it through a lot of things. They were harder than us. They were a lot more rugged, than we are. And I think that we have to think about that too, is that we've gotten lazy and soft, men and women. Women used to bust their asses on a daily basis, taking care of the family, taking care of the kids, sewing the clothes, doing the food preps, doing a garden, taking care of the animals, while the husband was out trying to make maybe $1 for the week, you know. And I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit. I think if push comes to shove, I think people will really, really surprise themselves is that our survival instinct, we survival, but survival. George, I did enough that 1944. Just look up Athens, Tennessee, George. There's two really, really good movies. I'm breaking up really bad. Okay, that no. War II. That's World War II, George. Was World War II. I didn't. We're getting ready to have a storm, so I'm hoping that the storm moves out. We're having really bad service all of a sudden. Um, Go figure. But it happens. Uh, I think that I really enjoyable day. I get it to be me time about the news rather than prepping. It's the day we all come together, and I hope that you all are enjoying it as well. And I agree with you, Lady Casca. Everybody needs to bust their booties and work. Lady Casca, I just read a really interesting report, and since it's your birthday, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. You said that you've really gotten into eating a lot of meat and stuff. I was reading an actual report that people that eat more meat, right? Good meat. Okay, we'll see. Eat good meat have more of a lifespan than people that don't eat meat. It's interesting. And there's a big thing about when you were talking about the fats from the meat, and I was reading this article's wonderful. Try to find it, Lady Cat. It's a wonderful article, but where you're at in your thing and stuff right now. And I think that you're on point about that. Sure, just like a at a boy, at a girl shout out thing about it, because I thought it was really interesting. And because of what you've been saying, I actually took time to read. I don't know. Mine is the work phone, but when we start this sound, and I'm blanking out on this close. Uh, I, I see cancel. You'll know I wouldn't have canceled this because of the internet service or the storm. I want to say God bless you here works wherever you're at. And Lady Casca, I'll try to find that article and get to you. Everybody have a blessed day. Again, thank you for coming in. I'll see you soon. When I start seeing too much chatter about that I'm robotic or it sounds like this or sounds like that to me, so I'm put down on life. So, bless you. Thank you for being here. We'll